I thought it was just some ugly stickers on a fence. Bright yellow, kind of obnoxious, but whatever. Official-looking stuff doesn't usually cause drama, right? Except in my neighborhood, where HOA President Gloria treats every blade of grass like it's on parade. So, when she spotted those stickers one morning, things didn't go the way you'd expect. I didn't plan to get involved. Honestly, I didn't think I had to. But what happened next? Let's just say it went way past neighborhood politics. You ever seen someone unravel over something they didn't understand? Drop your story in the comments. I need to know it's not just us. This is Storiesofqa, and it gets interesting. I never thought a fence could ruin someone's entire life, but here we are. The introduction. My name's Connor Blake. I'm 35, and I design electrical systems for a living. Logic and problem solving are my thing, which is probably why what happened next drove me absolutely insane. You see, I live in one of those planned communities where every blade of grass has to be the right height, and every mailbox has to match. It's fine, I guess, if you're into that sort of thing. But what I wasn't prepared for was Gloria Whitlow, our HOA president, and the most controlling person I've ever met in my life. Sometimes, I wonder if these HOA communities were designed by someone with OCD and a God complex, and somehow, Gloria fit both criteria. She's 58, used to be a real estate agent, and acts like she personally designed every house in our neighborhood. When she walks around the community, it's like watching a general inspect troops. Everything has to be perfect. Everything has to match her vision. And God help you if you disagree with her. Looking back, I should have known she was trouble when she introduced herself by handing me a 12-page booklet of community standards during my first week here. The thing was laminated for crying out loud. Who laminates HOA rules unless they plan to enforce them with military precision? The fence issue. The whole mess started with our shared fence. Now, I'm not one to complain about minor issues, but this thing was falling apart so badly that it was causing actual damage to my property. Water was seeping through the rotted boards and flooding my garden every time it rained. I'm talking about serious structural problems that were costing me money to fix. The fence ran right along the property line between Gloria's backyard and mine. So, technically, we were both responsible for maintaining it. At least, that's what I thought until I tried talking to Gloria about it. I brought it up at the monthly HOA meeting in March, thinking this would be a simple conversation between neighbors. Gloria, I've been having some issues with water damage from our shared fence, and I was hoping we could discuss getting it repaired, I said. She barely looked up from her notes and waved me off like I was asking her to solve world hunger. That's such a minor issue, Connor. Why bother me with something like that? She said dismissively. I sat there, staring at her, wondering if she'd actually seen the fence lately or if she just didn't care about anything that didn't directly affect her perfect rose garden. More excuses. The next month, I tried again. This time, I brought photos of the damage to my garden and the water pooling against my house foundation. Gloria glanced at the pictures for maybe 2 seconds before suggesting it was probably my fault somehow. You probably caused it yourself with your sprinkler system or something, she said, not even trying to hide the annoyance in her voice. I actually had to pause and collect myself after that one, because seriously, I caused the fence boards to rot from age. I went home and stood in front of the fence like an idiot, trying to rationalize her logic. Was I gaslighting myself? Was my sprinkler really that powerful? Deep down, I knew the answer. She just didn't care. April came and went with more excuses. No budget for fence repairs this quarter. May brought another classic. It's not really a priority right now. By June, I was getting pretty frustrated. The breaking point. That's when I started doing what any logical person would do when the system fails them. I started researching my options online, spending evenings diving deep into county codes and neighborhood regulations. I wasn't sure if going around the HOA to report directly to the county would get me in trouble, but Gloria's dismissive attitude was pushing me toward doing something drastic. Night after night, I'd sit at my kitchen table with my laptop reading about code enforcement and property maintenance requirements. The breaking point came during a particularly bad storm in late June. I'm standing in my kitchen, watching water stream through the fence like a waterfall, and I realized Gloria wasn't going to help me. She'd made that crystal clear over the past 4 months. So, there I was, staring at my laptop screen at midnight, cursor hovering over the county website. Part of me knew this was the right thing to do. The other part was worried about what Gloria might do for revenge. I kept thinking about her dismissive laugh when I showed her the photos. The way she looked at me like I was some kind of troublemaker for expecting basic property maintenance. The rain was still coming down outside, and I could hear water dripping in my garage from the latest flood. Maybe I was overthinking it. Maybe I should have tried talking to her one more time. But honestly, I was tired of being polite to someone who clearly didn't respect me or my property. So, I filled out the county code enforcement form and submitted it. I hovered my mouse over the submit button for way too long. Was I making an enemy out of someone who could fine me for weeds or window blinds? Maybe. But that water damage wasn't imaginary, and neither was the bill I'd just paid to a plumber. The next morning, when I called the inspector, he said he'd come check it out within a few days. I hung up feeling relieved, but something in my gut told me this was just the beginning. Was I opening a door I couldn't close? I had no idea what was about to happen, but I couldn't shake the feeling that Gloria wasn't going to take this well when she found out. And boy, was I right. The inspector's visit. 3 days later, Inspector Johnson showed up, right on schedule. He was this no-nonsense guy in his 50s, probably seen every kind of property dispute you can imagine. He took one look at our fence and shook his head like he couldn't believe it had been left in that condition for so long. "This is definitely a code violation," he told me, walking along the fence line and pointing out all the problems I'd been trying to get Gloria to notice for months. It felt good to finally have someone take my concerns seriously. You know, like I wasn't crazy for thinking a fence shouldn't look like it belonged in a disaster zone. The inspector was thorough, documenting everything with photos and measurements, treating this like the serious safety issue I knew it was. What happened next is where things got interesting, and honestly, where the title of this whole story comes from. He pulled out these neon yellow stickers like they were caution tape for a crime scene. When they showed me the repair estimate, I literally felt dizzy. We weren't talking about a few hundred to fix a fence anymore, or even a few thousand for the original survey. This was serious money, the kind of repair costs that could force someone to sell their house and start over somewhere else. "There's more," Miss Peterson continued, and I couldn't imagine what else there could be, because this already sounded like a financial disaster of epic proportions. Due to the severity of Mrs. Whitlow's interference with county operations, both the refused survey last year and the removal of warning notices this year, she's being removed from any HOA positions immediately. The county has also flagged her property for additional compliance inspections going forward. The Queen of Curb appeal had been dethroned, and this time, the county had the crown. The woman who'd controlled every aspect of our community for years was now facing oversight from people who had real authority and weren't impressed by her self-appointed importance. The meeting lasted another hour as they explained the timeline for repairs and the legal process Gloria would be facing. My fence problem, the original issue that started this whole mess, would be fixed for free as part of the larger infrastructure project. In fact, my entire backyard would probably be upgraded with new drainage and utility access that I never could have afforded on my own. It felt like winning a lawsuit I didn't even know I'd filed. The county was also dropping all the fines against Gloria related to removing the stickers. Not because she hadn't done anything wrong, but because the infrastructure repair costs were so massive that the fine money was basically irrelevant at this point. When I got home that afternoon, I could see the moving truck in Gloria's driveway, and it wasn't there for a neighbor. She was already packing, probably trying to get ahead of the financial disaster that was about to hit her like a freight train. I was pulling weeds in my front yard when she walked over one last time. I could see she'd been crying. The perfect makeup was smudged. Her carefully styled hair was messy. She looked like someone who'd just realized their entire world was falling apart. "You got what you wanted, didn't you?" she said, but without the venom I'd expected. She just sounded tired and defeated, like someone who'd finally run out of fight. "Gloria, I just wanted my fence fixed," I told her. And I meant it completely. Everything else that happened, you did to yourself. She stood there for a minute, looking at the fence that had started this whole mess. Then she looked back at her house with the moving boxes visible through the windows. "Those ugly stickers," she said, shaking her head like she still couldn't believe how everything had unraveled from such a simple thing. If I had just left them alone, read what they said, worked with the county instead of fighting them. I looked at this woman who'd controlled every aspect of our neighborhood for years, now reduced to packing boxes and facing financial ruin because she couldn't stand the sight of yellow warning stickers on her fence. "Sometimes the ugliest things are trying to protect us from something much worse," I told her. And I think that might have been the first time she actually understood what had really happened here. Those stickers weren't just about the fence. They were a warning about a much bigger problem hiding underneath. If she'd left them alone, if she'd worked with the system instead of against it, she'd probably still be living in her perfect house, still be HOA president, and I'd probably still be dealing with that broken fence. Gloria moved away 3 weeks later to an apartment complex with no HOA. Probably for the best, given her track record with community governance. Yesterday, while cleaning my garage, I found one leftover county warning sticker that had fallen behind a toolbox. Instead of throwing it away, I framed it and hung it on my wall with a note reminder. The uglier something looks, the more important it might be to leave it alone. What I learned. You know what I learned from all this? Sometimes, the system actually works when you work with it instead of against it. And sometimes the person who thinks they're the smartest in the room is actually digging their own grave, one shovel of pride at a time. Gloria thought those stickers were ugly and embarrassing. She was so focused on how things looked that she forgot to think about why they were there. And those stickers weren't just stickers. They were a warning. She treated them like trash because they didn't match her garden. The irony still blows my mind. If she'd just paused, read them, and asked one question, things might have turned out very differently. But I guess that's what happens when someone cares more about appearances than what's actually going on underneath. The fence is fixed now. The neighborhood's quieter. And me? I learned that sometimes you don't have to push back. You just have to wait. If this one hit close to home, feel free to drop a comment or hit like so I know you're out there. And if you want to support more stories like this, there's that little thanks button below. It helps more than you'd think. Thanks for sticking around. See you all next time here on Storiesofqa. Appreciate you sticking with us at Storiesofqa. Hit that bell so you never miss a moment, because things only get crazier.